guests, Dean Edley, respected professors, dear friends, and family members, a very, very special morning to all of you. I would agree with Charbel wholeheartedly. The Berkeley class of 2011 is indeed a phenomenal class. The ADB office would probably vouch for the fact that we are the only LLM class in the history of Bolt Hall to chant LLM at a pitch that most human beings would deem to be impossible. Moreover, not only have we employed our unique accents to give new meaning to the English language, we've also managed to make Bolt Hall OD on the phrase "in my country." This may be what makes us unique. But we are phenomenal because we engaged with each other in the universal language of mutual respect and equality. Because our in-our-country perspectives have opened doors to new ideas and inculcated a deep appreciation for diversity and difference. In this 1 year, we have organized symposiums, we have organized fundraisers, edited journals, logged in clinics, and probably kept Jupiter Bar financially afloat. And as people, we have demonstrated exemplary resolve in coping with personal problems, and a profound sensitivity to issues that touch not only us, but also the global community that we represent. It is this ethos, which we acquired at Berkeley Law, that we celebrate today. By now, I'm sure we've realized that our relationship with Berkeley Law is not as simple as a 9-month stand. It has strings attached. Through lectures, talks, and discussions, we realized that as Berkeley Law graduates, we would play a major role in and bear the burdens of modeling the future society. We realize, as lawyers, when we are sought for legal opinions to protect the environment, regulate businesses, and justify wars, our actions would have to be tempered by our humanity and our respect for equality and human dignity. These are the same values we espoused and have demonstrated at Berkeley Law this year. I am confident that we will honor each other, our professors and our institution, by continuing to practice these values in the future. Berkeley Law class of 2011, I feel honored and proud to have known you, and I feel humbled speaking on behalf of you at graduation. Friends and now Masters of Law, congratulations on your graduation. We started this year with the roar of the LLM chant, and we took Berkeley by storm. Let us start this new beginning with greater rigor, and let's aim for the world now. Congratulations.
This year, so you need to hear about them. You need to hear about remarkable people from Thailand and from Indonesia, as well as a audacious and sharp personality from Australia and a great friend. That's it. Thank you again.
Next year, Andorra will be here. I, every year, tell the LLM students when they come, don't sleep, because the year goes by so quickly. And from everything I observed, this year's class took that advice to heart. Next, we'll hear from the co-presidents of the graduating class. Grace S. Patricia Frink and Jerome Price Jr. Together, they worked with 3L class representatives Jay Brissell and Zoe Savitsky to organize the class campaign, the class gift, and the class party. We owe them a debt of gratitude for all of their hard work. Grace is originally from Weaverville, California. She graduated from UCLA with a degree in critical race theory, public policy, and law. During her 3 years at Bolt, she was, among other things, the vice president of Law Students of African Descent, the solicitations editor of the Berkeley Journal of African American Law and Policy, and a research assistant for Professor Angela Harris. Grace was also a co-founder of the Women of Color Collective and the Critical Race Scholars Society. Grace will be going to Los Angeles after graduation to work at the law firm of Skadden Arps. I guess they're not going to give us the name for the new building. Jerome is originally from Turlock, California. He attended... Turlock? Oh, Jerome, okay. He attended UCLA and majored in political science. During his 3 years at Bolt, Jerome was a member of the Berkeley Journal of African American Law and Policy and served in his second year as the president of the Law Students of African Descent. He was also a member of the Board of Advocates Trial Advocacy Team, where his team won first place in 3 competitions. In the fall, Jerome will be clerking for the Honorable Damon Keith of the United States Court of Appeals for the 6th Circuit. Grace and Jerome.
All things in the world are yours, not by ownership, but by possession. All people are your people, and their problems are your opportunities to turn night into day. The past is yours, learn from it. The present is yours, fulfill it. The future is yours, preserve it. The truth is yours, believe it. Faith is yours, claim it. Injustice is yours, correct it. Ignorance is yours, banish it. Bigotry is yours, end it. Hope is yours, affirm it. The world is yours, change it. And the leadership at Berkeley Law, our distinguished and renowned faculty, our cherished Bolt Hall community, to our esteemed alumni, family, friends, loved ones, and even the protesters who remind us of our civic duty to stand up for what we believe in. On behalf of the class of 2011, we bring you greetings and we welcome you to this special occasion, the commencement of the class formerly known as the 3Ls.
It is an honor and a privilege to welcome you all on behalf of the class of 2011. Having gotten the incredible opportunity to know so many of my classmates, I'm astonished and exhilarated to even be considered a part of this brilliant group of movers and shakers. As Jerome will speak to, the passion and the energy of the class of 2011 rocked Bolt for the past 3 years. But before we talk about us, it's important to recognize that our successes are possible because we stand on the shoulders of giants. Not just Bolt Hall alumni and faculty, who are indeed giants, but we're here today in caps and gowns, graduating from the best law school in the country. Because of the rest of you. Our families, our extended families, our friends, our fraternity brothers, spouses, teachers, mentors, coaches, you all made this possible. You put up with our constant stress because we're all overachievers. You were happy for us when we got a job, or at least you will be. And you love us in spite of our debt. In celebrating the class of 2011, we're not just celebrating our accomplishments, we're celebrating all of you. We're celebrating where we come from, whether it's Paris, France, or La Hui, Hawaii. We're celebrating who we come from. We're celebrating the incredible people around us who made us who we are today. To every mother, father, friend, and mentor, thank you. And congratulations. None of us would be here without you. To my class, we made it. We have very different stories and reasons for going to law school, but we all share the fact that we were, and I hope that we still are, inspired. Whether we were inspired to be like our Supreme Court Justice uncle, whether we were inspired to help our families out of poverty, or whether we were inspired to fight the injustices that our history exposed us to, we were inspired by the people around us. Even those of us with a limited rallying section in the crowd today had someone here to support us. We made it because at some point, someone gave us an opportunity. Someone encouraged us. We found some favor in the world, and it led us to Bolt Hall. The fact is, none of us got here alone. Because of that, I hope that we all always remember two things: to appreciate and to give back. First, appreciate. Look at where we are today. It's seriously amazing. Lawyers, social engineers, the pride of our families and friends. To really comprehend the magnitude of earning our Juris Doctorates from Berkeley Law, we have to reflect on how ridiculously fortunate we are to be sitting here. We're fortunate that a college professor took the time to write us a glowing letter of recommendation. We're fortunate that our families did not disown us when we decided to take on a couple $100,000 worth of debt to earn yet another degree. We're fortunate that Dean Pershing let us sit here today, even if we turned in our writing requirement yesterday. When we think about everything that had to come together to put us where we are today, our hearts should be overcome with gratitude. We are so fortunate. We are so blessed by the people around us and the opportunities that we have been given. Never forget to appreciate. It will put you in a really good mood. Second, give back. We are movers and shakers, and as such, we owe it to our respective corners of the globe to use our energy and ambition to inspire, mentor, and love to the same fervor that we have been inspired, mentored, and loved. As we go on to take over the world in our respective careers, keep in mind what Barack Obama said earlier this year. What matters is not wealth or status or power or fame, but rather how well we have loved, and what small part we have played in making the lives of other people better. We did not get here alone, and we can't expect the next generation to do so either. Show your gratitude for all that you have been given by giving back to others.
We began a journey that has culminated in our assembly here today. 3 years ago, we convened as a class in Booth Auditorium, totally clueless as to what the immediate future had in store for us. Kind of like now. Yet, we were ready and eager to find out. And what a 3 years it has been. Our journey here has indeed been marked by transformations. We witnessed transformations at Bolt Hall with the construction of the new South Addition building. We've endured the transformations in the legal market and the numerous other effects of a collapsed economy. And we've also witnessed transformations in society at large. Who here can forget November 4th, 2008, when a man by the name of Barack Obama, who ran on a campaign of hope and change, was elected President of the United States? In an election that awakened us to the possibilities of the American dream. But today, as we sit here 3 years later, we find ourselves at a fork in the road. A fork marking our imminent departure to fulfill our respective destinies. This ceremony is just as much about reflection and introspection as it is about celebration. So while we remain here at this fort, allow us to pose a set of reflective questions that we hope will challenge all of us to move forward with a renewed and calibrated sense of direction. The first question is, why did you come to law school? That is, what are your passions? What is your purpose? Was it to advocate on behalf of those who can't advocate for themselves? Or was it to fuel an insatiable curiosity in novel issues of law? Or was it to obtain power to do as Johnny Cochran says, to comfort the afflicted and to afflict the comfortable? Why did those passions propel you to undertake a 3-year study in law? Now, everybody, I'm sure, has their individual reasons, but we want you to think deeply about those reasons because they will be your navigator as you move forward. The second question is, what was your boat hall moment? Now, I know you guys may be thinking, what is a boat hall moment? I never heard that before. That's because I just made that up. A boat hall moment. This is a moment that you realize that you made the right decision to come to school here. What has your time at Boat Hall given you that you will cherish forever? Was it the camaraderie that you created in Mod 7? Was it the meaningful friendships you created in the Women of Color Collective? Or the Law Students of African Descent? Or the Board of Advocates? We all cherish something about this institution that makes us proud to graduate from here. And whatever that is, it's something that deserves to be passed on to future generations of Boltians. So see that it does. So we talked about why it was you came to Bolt and why you stayed at Bolt. Finally, the third question is, what will it matter? That is to say, you went to law school, you graduated, so what now? Grace spoke so eloquently about the legacy of those who came before us, but what will be your legacy? You see, because when I think about my classmates like Alex Hernandez and Keaton Levy, and the rest of our classmates who will go on to become prosecutors, I think about people who will provide solace to victims, and people who will hold society accountable to the social contract of acting civil to one another. I don't think about people irrationally fixated with the conviction rate. And when I think about people like Hutan Bakmahamdi, and Stephanie Clark, and Joe Goldstein Breyer, and the rest of our classmates who will become public defenders, I think about people who will ensure that the Constitution means what it says for everybody. People who will safeguard the constitutional mandate that everybody enjoys the presumption of innocence until they have been proven guilty. And when I think about our classmates who will go on to public interest, I think about social justice heroes. I think about people who have dedicated their lives to carrying on the mantle of social justice. And when I think about our classmates who will go into private practice, I don't think about people who sold out. I think about the opportunity that you have and the resources you have to make a difference in the world. The point is that your job does not define you. Your passions and your integrity define you. You define your job, not the other way around. And the question is, how will you be defined? Never forget that all things in the world are yours by possession. Poverty is yours. Environmental destruction is yours. The achievement gap in education is yours. Bigotry is yours. Change it. Change it because it's the morally right thing to do. Change it because you are equipped with the tools to do so. Change it because that's the legacy we've inherited from generations of Bolt Hall alumni who've come before us. In times of crisis and injustice, people will always look to the lawyers, which means that all eyes will be on you. What are you going to do? And if I might give my 2 cents, I would suggest that you speak truth to power. Speak truth to power. Because as lawyers, you are empowered to do justice. And I know that you will have the power to make a difference. When I look out into our class, I see future judges sitting among us today. I see future governors sitting among us today. As I look out, I'm sure that we have future United States senators right here in the class of 2011. We might even have a future president of the United States. The power will come Will you speak truth to power? Aside from everything that I've said already, if we can impress one thing upon you, it would be save public education. Remember your Bolt Hall moment, and remember that for some of us here today, if it were not for public education, we would have no education. Remember that it was public education that brought together people from the most rural parts of California to the most urban parts of New York, in the same classroom engaging in meaningful discussion about public policy. Don't let anyone convince you that public access can be divorced from public education, because those two ideas go hand in hand. So save public education. I want to conclude with this thought. The challenges that we have endured through the transformations of these past 3 years have only prepared us to deal with the challenges of life, because life will continue to challenge you. To borrow language from Langston Hughes, life is not always going to be a crystal stairs. It's going to have tacks in it, and splinters, and boards torn up, and places where no carpet at all. And some of us know all too well that there will be times in your life where your circumstances are going to test how entrenched your passions are and how unshakable your purpose is. Stay true to your passion. Stay steadfast in your purpose. Never give up. I repeat, never give up. Do not be intimidated by life. Be enriched by life. Be enlarged by challenge. That's what we learned at Bolt Hall. Bill George says that authentic leaders know the true north of their moral compass and are prepared to stay the course despite challenges and disappointments. Class of 2011, you are authentic leaders because you are enlarged by challenges. Not only did you participate in Bolt Hall's organizations and take them to new heights, but you created even more student organizations, such as the Critical Race Scholar Society and the Women of Color Collective. Not only did you devote your time to the clinics at Bolt Hall, but you created even more student-initiated clinics to provide legal services to the community, not the least of which includes providing legal assistance to Iraqi refugees and aid to our military veterans. The lesson from the class of 2011 teaches all of us to be enlarged by challenge. So with that, I say congratulations, class of 2011. You earned it. You did it, and we wish you all the success on your journeys to your respective destinies. In just a few moments, you will receive a degree from one of the finest institutions in the world. What will it matter?
Next we have that was really fabulous. Can't wait to see it again on YouTube. Next we have a special part of our ceremony, and it's not in your program. For this part of the ceremony, I'm pleased to introduce Professor of Political Science, who also happens to be serving as the Executive Vice Chancellor and Provost of Berkeley, the Chief Academic Officer of this, the best university in the solar system. George Breslauer built a stunning career as an expert on the politics of the Soviet Union. He's basically unemployable now. Thank God for tenure. But it's my pleasure to introduce my good friend and a good friend of our law school, Provost George Breslauer.
Friends, colleagues, Berkeleyans, lend me your ears. I have come to honor Martin Shapiro, not to roast him. Martin M. Shapiro is the James W. and Isabel Coffroth Professor of Law. The Berkeley Citation is the highest award that the campus can bestow upon a member of the UC Berkeley Professoriate. And my pleasure and honor here today is to award the Berkeley Citation to Professor Martin Shapiro. Professor Shapiro got his PhD from Harvard University in 1961. He's taught in the political science departments at Harvard and Stanford, and at UC Berkeley, UC Irvine, and UC San Diego. He joined the Bolt faculty in 1977. He's past president of the Western Political Science Association and a member of the American Academy of Arts and Sciences. He's the author of many highly influential books, and in 2003 received a Lifetime Achievement Award from the Law and Courts section of the American Political Science Association. More substantively, Martin Shapiro's extraordinary scholarship on public law and comparative politics has had a dramatic influence on the fields of political science and law, not only in the United States, but throughout Europe. His insistence that courts were best understood as political institutions, deeply embedded in and reflective of the interests of the dominant regime, has revolutionized the study of public law in both political science departments and law schools. More recently, Professor Shapiro has been a leading scholar of the development of constitutional law in the European Union. His service to this university has been stellar. He's been a wonderful mentor to scores of graduate students and to his colleagues in both the law school and political science. UC Berkeley has been truly honored to have Professor Shapiro as one of its most distinguished faculty members. The Berkeley Citation is an appropriate capstone to a brilliant career. And let me read from the last paragraph of a letter sent in to endorse the nomination of Professor Shapiro for this citation from a former student of his who is now himself on the faculty of a leading law school. And he writes, "Virtually every major development in public law scholarship in the last 2 decades was foreshadowed by Martin's work. The new institutionalism, the strategic model of judicial behavior, the examination of lower courts in the United States, the comparative turn, and the examination of transnational bodies such as the European Court of Justice. To have shaped one major approach to a field would be a major career accomplishment for most scholars. To have shaped several is the kind of truly exceptional accomplishment for which Berkeley's top award should be reserved. I will always be grateful to Berkeley for the training I received there over 10 years as an undergraduate and graduate student. Of all the wonderful teachers I had, none have shaped my career like Martin Shapiro. I am forever in his debt," unquote. As are we, Professor Shapiro, as are we.
Every year, the graduating class selects one of the faculty members to be faculty speaker. The class of 2011 has chosen our much beloved Professor David Sklansky. The Joseph Moshiewicz Professor of Law and Faculty Chair of the Berkeley Center for Criminal Justice, David joined the Bolt faculty in 2005 after a decade at UCLA School of Law, where he won the campus-wide Distinguished Teaching Award and was twice voted the law school's Professor of the Year. He teaches courses in criminal law, criminal procedure, and evidence. After graduating from Harvard Law School in 1984, David clerked for Judge Abner Mikva of the UC Court of Appeals for the DC Circuit and for US Supreme Court Justice Harry Blackmun. He briefly practiced labor law in Washington at the firm of Bredoff and Kaiser. From 1987 to 94, he served as an assistant US attorney in Los Angeles, where he specialized in white-collar fraud prosecutions. While at UCLA, he served as special counsel to the independent review panel to investigate the Los Angeles Police Department's Rampart Division scandal. David Sklansky is the author of Democracy and the Police, and a leading evidence casebook as well. He's written extensively about criminal procedure and policing. He does community service, not only his service in Los Angeles, but his service in our neighborhood. He's a member of the Oakland Police Department's Academic Advisory Group. His latest article, Private Policing and Human Rights, promises to shed light on this important dimension of analyzing our domestic criminal justice system. And last but not least, I'm informed by reliable sources that David is addicted to climbing mountains, but not super big mountains. Where's David? Is that right? There's something about every county in California, David finds the highest peak and climbs that mountain. Climb every mountain. This strikes me as a very bizarre sort of hobby. And I'm reluctant to be critical of a colleague, especially one who is such a fabulous teacher and scholar. But David, come on, get a life.
I feel like Stephen Colbert. This is a great and humbling honor. I'm in front of a group of graduates who mean a great deal to me on a day that obviously means a great deal to them. And I'm in a place and on a stage that means a lot to me. So if you indulge me for a minute, I want to tell you about the first time I came to this amphitheater. It was about 35 years ago. I was a college freshman, far less worldly than any of you. Listen, I was far less worldly than any of you were when you were college freshmen. I was here for a day-long jazz festival. I was sitting way up toward the grass, trying vainly to act cool, getting badly sunburned. This was 1978. We didn't know from SPF. Anyway, there was a really astonishing lineup of performers that day. Oscar Peterson, Ray Brown, Herbie Hancock, Ron Carter, Tony Williams. These names mean something to the people behind me. Anyway, the performance that I remember best, this is the performance I'll never forget from that day, was by a group of local teenagers led by a guy named Peter Apfelbaum. They called themselves Peter Apfelbaum and the Hieroglyphics. There were 17 of them, horns, woodwinds, drums, electric guitars, a couple of bass players. Peter Apfelbaum is now a pretty well-known composer and band leader, but back then he was just a senior at Berkeley High with a lot of talent and a lot of attitude. So they played this amazing set. I didn't know much about jazz. I still don't know much about jazz, but I knew enough to know that these guys were really great. And then, this is the part I remember best, when it was time for them to end their set, they didn't. They just kept playing, and playing, and playing. I don't think anyone here in the amphitheater wanted them to stop, but they were part of a day-long festival, and there was a schedule. I don't remember if they were the opening act or the closing act, but either way, it was past time for them to get off the stage. But they didn't. They just kept playing. I was a kid from Orange County. I had never seen anything like this. Eventually, a couple of security guards started physically carting the hieroglyphics off the stage. One by one. First the horn players, then the saxophonists, then the kids with the clarinets. And as the musicians were being carried off, they kept playing as best they could. Some of them also grabbed their chairs or their music stands, which made things more challenging for the poor guys trying to drag them off the stage. I had grown up 20 minutes from Disneyland, so at first I thought this was all just part of the act. But then one of the band members took a swing at one of the security guards, or maybe it was the other way around, and I thought, oh. The way I remember it, Peter Applebaum, who was leading the band and playing sax, was one of the last to be escorted off the stage. And when they were all gone, there was a standing ovation. I thought we were clapping for the hieroglyphics, but it occurred to me years later that maybe some of the applause was for the security guards. Watching all this from up toward the grass, up on one of the last rows of those concrete benches, I'd like to say I was intrigued by the legal questions that these events raised. Whether I had witnessed any torts, or crimes, or trespasses. I'd like to say that that's when I started wondering about the powers exercised by private security guards, and how those powers should differ from the ones that we give the public police. That would be a lie. I wasn't thinking about any of that. What I was thinking was, Berkeley is an amazing place. What I didn't know back then was how much of my life I'd be lucky enough to spend in this amazing place. How much it would teach me, how much it would change me. I didn't know I'd be back in this very amphitheater years later to watch a friend graduate from Bolt, or that a few years after that we'd be married. The graduation speaker that day, by the way, was Lily Schroeder's mother. That was a great speech. I didn't know I'd be back in this amphitheater to listen to graduation speeches from Bob Barron and Steve Bundy and Goodwin Liu, and that I'd be able to call them my colleagues. Those were great speeches too. I missed the graduation the year that Ann O'Connell spoke, but I have it on good authority. She was terrific. But you're stuck with me. The point is, I didn't know how many times I would be back in this amphitheater thinking, Berkeley is an amazing place. And it's fitting that so many of those moments happened here in the Greek Theater, because this is a structure and a space that itself captures a good deal of what makes Berkeley and Bolt so special, so restless, so dream-soaked, so full of contradictions. Look around us. We're gathered today in a monument to privilege and to democracy, to mammon and to the life of the mind. It was financed, as you may know, by William Randolph Hearst, the rapacious newspaper magnate who built Hearst Castle and dragged the country into war with Spain. But it deliberately evokes the philosophical sensibilities of ancient Greece. It looks simultaneously to the past and to the future, a vivid expression of this campus's founders' audacious aims to build here in Berkeley a new Athens. Architecturally, this structure could hardly be more rooted in the history of Western Europe, but it gazes fixedly across the bay, through the Golden Gate, across the Pacific to Asia. You could say that it stands for anacro-utopian, oligarchic, democratic, Eurocentric pan-culturalism. Just like Berkeley. This theater was completed more than a century ago, in 1903. That also happened to be the year that this campus awarded its first law degrees. The commencement exercises were held here in the Greek Theater, and the speaker was the President of the United States, Theodore Roosevelt. That was probably a good speech too. There were 3 law graduates in 1903, and in many ways they set the tone for all the lawyers later to receive their degrees on the stage. The first one was Harry Holzer, who went on to become a state judge, a federal judge, and a celebrated leader of the Los Angeles Jewish community. He had his, perhaps his finest hour in the 1930s and 1940s when he worked to draw attention to the plight of Jewish refugees in Europe and in Shanghai, at a time when many people couldn't or didn't want to believe the full dimensions of the cataclysm. The second law degree granted here in 1903 went to Motoyuki Nagoro, a Japanese national who, because of his origins, was unable to naturalize, and because he was unable to naturalize, was unable to practice law. So instead, Motoyuki Nagoro became a journalist and labor organizer in Hawaii. He campaigned to get plantation workers better wages, improved working conditions, and racially neutral pay practices. And for his efforts, he wound up serving 10 months in prison on trumped-up charges of conspiracy before he was released